Hello world of YouTube and welcome to October with a start that I wasn't originally going to make it, but you know how life goes. Instead of doing the tier time that I was going to do yesterday, now I'm going to do that next week. The redacted that was going to come out today is going to come out tomorrow so that I could talk about a show that I went to last night. I saw Anamanaguchi at the Old National Center here in Indianapolis with Fullbody 2 as the opener. They are on their Anyway tour. I was incredibly excited to see them, not just because I love their newest album, but because I love Anamanaguchi in general. I think they're a very consistent band that I've now been a fan of for like 15 years at this point. So I figured now would be a better time than ever to go see them live. I will say, while I didn't know Fullbody 2, I'm not really aware of their music. I have a lot of interest in their music after seeing them live because I thought they were a really cool setup. They kind of made sense when opening for Anamanaguchi, even if their set was like relatively short in comparison to Anamanaguchi's. Maybe it's just because they had songs that had a bit more vibes throughout them, and they really sort of carried those vibes into some extensions of the songs. But like their set list was really, really good. They were a cool mixing of these like shoegaze ideas with some electronics and pseudo chiptune influence creeping throughout. One of their guitarists used a heavily filtered tone to give it a very digital edge, and he sort of added to a lot of the ambience that the band was cooking up. They had a really good light show that worked well in the intimate venue that they were playing in with Anamanaguchi. And I think that as far as being a really cool pairing to some of the high energy that Anamanaguchi very much brought with their set, it was a cool sort of slow burn intro to that I think set the stage really fucking well. I'd almost honestly compare their stage presence to and how quickly their set kind of flew by to when I saw Matt the Band open for the Protomen a handful of years ago in Philly. It was very much focusing on the music and creating the stage and setting it, but I think that like the sonics for Fullbody 2 work more in favor to set up for Anamanaguchi, especially when touring this album, because of their use of mood and really heavy shoegaze inspiration with that electronic twist that I think created some really good songs. I started spinning them this morning before filming the review, and I get the vibe now that they were putting forth, and I think that they're a really tight unit that just made some really good, not necessarily ragers, but again, just big songs to help welcome in all the energy for Anamanaguchi splendorously. As far as Anamanaguchi's set is considered, though, it was what I was hoping it was going to be when I talked about potentially seeing them live when I reviewed their album Anyway last month. It was a blending of their career with a focus on Anyway that I think showcased how much like the rest of their stuff Anyway does sound. It's just a different flavor, a different mood, so to speak. But because of the high energy of their classic stuff, it helped gel some of those emotions into a really concise listen. And it was a really fun vibe. You know, they did a good job at balancing chunks of new stuff with chunks of old stuff before blurring the lines. There was a moment where they also worked in a couple of covers that they've been working around within their live set that I think also hit just as well. Don't get me wrong, it was really cool to hear some of my favorites from back in the day, like hearing Airbrushed and Meow and closing with Endless Fantasy. It was peak. If it wasn't for the guy that was standing in front of me and Rachel, that was all vibes, it might have hit me a little bit differently in a way that would have got me a little choked up, because I've been a fan of this band for so long. There was a guy that when we were leaving, he was talking behind us about how hearing some of those older songs, like they played Another Winter from the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack, and that like took him back to his college days. I very much felt the same way, and it was awesome. Like hearing Meow and just going crazy over that was just peak. But I think that like the new stuff also sounded really fucking choice. There was a moment where they played Hope and Dreams from the Undertale soundtrack, because they have a cover of that they've recorded, and I think that like transitioned beautifully into one of the newer songs. I think it was Lide, and I think that like those two tracks, like very different worlds, but bridged together because the band just knows how to make their sound work across the sonic emotional spectrum. They also had a moment where they played their I Miss the Rage cover, which I think is a really good cover, and I think sounded phenomenal live. I also think that their sonics also just worked well in a live setting. The the sort of bringing of life that the new album did to other parts of the sound, I think translated onto a full stage with the older stuff blending also well. It was just a really great experience. You know, they had some crowd work, it was light, but it was really good. They had 2 Mikus in the crowd, then when they played Miku, it was for them. You know, they played Airbrushed earlier in the soundtrack than they were expecting, because there was a dude in the crowd that was just really amped to hear that, and I'm not gonna lie, I was also one of those dudes, and it was sick to hear. But, like, I don't know. It was a really great meeting of the minds, meeting of the worlds. You know, I thought it was really cool to see them just work in some choice cuts from their older stuff, even though they're promoting this newer album. And I really appreciated the craftsmanship on display. It was super fucking sick. It was a long time coming for me to see this band, I feel like, because, again, I've been following them for so long. But I think that, like, I had really no complaints about the vibes. It worked as well as an intimate setting as the scale set within Fullbody 2 did. I think that, like, their energy was on 10. The overall crowd was great. It was just a really good time. And they had a really great set, and they killed it. They had a really, really, really great set. And if you haven't caught them on this tour, I very much would do so, because it's a great time. That's it. I just want to talk about the Anamanaguchi show. Tell you to go check them out if you haven't seen them on their tour that they're doing right now. If you want to get some nostalgia and really hear their live stuff, their new stuff in a live setting in a way that helps, like, make it feel more like them maybe to you, I would do so. And also spin their new album, because I think it's great anyway. But yeah. Those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. If you like to give it a like and want to see more, subscribe. 2 to 4 vids a week, depending on what I've got going on. You guys have good days, lives, and situations, and I'll see you another day.